The sky turned dark purple as Ethan Miller stepped onto the rocky ground of planet Novaris. His boots made soft, crunching sounds on the strange soil. Around him, tall blue plants swayed in the gentle wind. Ethan had lived on this research base for 3 years now. Every day he went out to study the plants and creatures of this alien world. Today felt different. Ethan couldn't explain why, but something pulled him toward the eastern hills. He adjusted his breathing mask and checked his tools. His scanner beeped softly as he walked away from the safety of the base. "Base, this is Miller. I'm heading to Section 5 for routine samples," he said into his radio. "Copy that, Miller." "Remember to be back before dark," a voice crackled back. Ethan climbed over rocks and through patches of strange plants. His job as a xenobiologist was to study alien life forms. So far, Novaris had shown only simple plants and small bug-like creatures. Nothing special or dangerous. Nothing like what the big space companies hoped to find. Near a small stream, something caught his eye. A faint blue glow came from between two large rocks. Ethan moved closer, his heart beating faster. He pushed aside the rocks and gasped. There, nestled in a small hole, was an egg-like object. It was about the size of his palm, with a smooth shell that seemed to shift colors in the light. Blue veins pulsed across its surface. Ethan knew the rules. Any new discovery needed to be reported and brought to the lab for team study. But something about this egg made him pause. He reached out and touched it gently. The surface felt warm and somehow alive. "This is amazing," he whispered to himself. Before he could think twice, Ethan placed the egg in his sample bag. He would study it himself first, just for a day or two. Then he would tell the others. Back in his private quarters, Ethan created a small habitat for the egg. He used a heated container with soft material inside. The egg continued to pulse with blue light. Ethan set up cameras to record any changes and finally went to sleep. A soft cracking sound woke him hours later. Ethan jumped from his bed and rushed to the container. The egg was hatching. Small cracks spread across its surface as Ethan watched in wonder. Finally, the shell broke open. A tiny creature emerged, no bigger than Ethan's thumb. It had 6 slim limbs and translucent skin. Ethan could see small organs glowing inside its body, but most striking were its eyes, large, deep, and somehow knowing. "Hello there," Ethan said softly. "What are you?" The creature tilted its head as if trying to understand. Then it moved toward Ethan's hand when he placed it near the container. It touched his finger with one of its limbs. "I'll call you Nova," Ethan decided, "because you're something new and amazing." Over the next days, Ethan kept Nova secret. He built a larger habitat in his lab and brought food for the creature to try. Nova grew quickly, doubling in size in just 1 week. She seemed to prefer meat over plants and watched Ethan constantly. Nova showed surprising intelligence. She could solve simple puzzles Ethan created. She learned to mimic his hand movements. When Ethan spoke, Nova would move closer, as if listening and trying to understand. "You're not just some animal, are you?" Ethan asked one day as Nova watched him work. "What are you really?" Far away, across the stars, something happened on a massive ship. Alarms blared through the royal chambers of the Vraxian Imperial Fleet's mothership. Princess Lyra Kazara woke with a gasp. She felt a strange emptiness inside her mind. "Your Highness." A guard rushed in. "We detected an unauthorized hatching signal." Lyra rose from her bed, her tall, slim form moving gracefully despite her concern. Her silver skin caught the dim light as she walked to the control panel. "Where?" she asked, her voice musical but cold. "Planet Novaris, Your Highness. Recently marked for resource gathering." Lyra touched her chest where a small mark glowed faintly. The bond that should have formed at birth, the psychic connection to her guardian creature, felt broken. Someone had taken what was hers. "Prepare my personal warship," she commanded, "and a squad of my best guards." "Your Highness, perhaps we should send recovery specialists instead?" suggested her advisor, a smaller Vraxian with dark blue skin. "No, this is royal business. Lyra's eyes narrowed. The Guardian was meant for me alone. I will retrieve it myself. On Navaris, Ethan remained unaware of the danger coming his way. He watched in amazement as Nova continued to change. After 1 month, she was the size of a small cat. Her skin had developed a pattern of scales that changed color based on her surroundings. She could climb walls and move with incredible speed. Nova had become protective of Ethan. When another scientist came close to discovering her, Nova hid in the shadows. When Ethan cut his hand on broken glass, Nova seemed concerned, staying close, until he bandaged it. "We're friends now, aren't we?" Ethan said as Nova curled up near his desk. "I should tell the others about you, but I'm afraid of what they might do." Ethan knew keeping Nova secret broke every rule of his job. But their connection felt special, important. He couldn't risk Nova being taken away for tests and studies by the company that ran the base. That night, as stars shone over Navaris, Ethan didn't notice a new light appear in the sky. Princess Lyra's warship entered the planet's orbit, its cloaking technology hiding it from Earth sensors. The princess stood on the bridge, looking down at the planet. "Find the Guardian," she ordered, "and whoever dared to take it from me." Ethan slept peacefully, with Nova watching from her habitat nearby. Neither knew that their lives were about to change forever. 3 months passed. Nova grew larger every week. She now reached Ethan's knee when standing on her hind limbs. Her body had changed in amazing ways. Her skin developed sleek, iridescent scales that shifted colors with her mood. Sharp claws appeared, on her limbs, which she could pull back when not needed. Her eyes grew sharper, able to see things Ethan couldn't in the dark. Most impressive was her intelligence. Nova learned to open doors and containers. She understood when Ethan pointed at things. She communicated through patterns of light that glowed through her skin. When she wanted food, the lights pulsed quickly. When she felt happy, they made slow, gentle waves. "You're incredible," Ethan told her one evening as she sat beside him in his lab. "I've never seen anything like you in all my studies." Ethan kept detailed notes about Nova's growth. He recorded videos but told no one at the base about her. He built a hidden space behind his equipment cabinets where Nova could hide if someone came to his lab unexpectedly. One night, Ethan woke to find Nova standing alert by his bed. Her scales had turned dark with just faint blue lines glowing. She made a soft clicking sound. "What's wrong, girl?" Ethan asked, sitting up. A moment later, his room shook. A small earthquake, common on Navaris. But Nova had sensed it before. It happened. After that, Ethan noticed she could predict other things too. Storms, equipment failures, even when someone was about to knock on his door. Their bond grew stronger each day. Nova followed Ethan everywhere he went in his private areas. She seemed to understand his words, his feelings, and sometimes even his thoughts. "I wish I could take you outside," Ethan said one day. "But it's too risky. Someone would see you." Nova tilted her head, her eyes fixed on Ethan's face. Then she bumped her head against his hand gently. A week later, Ethan had to go on an expedition to collect samples from a cave system. He left Nova hidden in his quarters with enough food for 2 days. "I'll be back tomorrow," he promised. "Stay hidden." The caves were deeper than expected. Ethan and 2 other scientists mapped new tunnels, finding strange crystal formations. Hours into the exploration, Ethan's team member Dan radioed the 3rd member. "Kelly, where are you? You should have reached checkpoint 3 by now." No answer came. Ethan felt uneasy. "Let's head back and check on her," he suggested. As they turned around, a loud rumble shook the cave. Rocks began to fall. Ethan pushed. "Dan, forward. Run!" They sprinted through the tunnel as the ceiling collapsed behind them. They reached a larger chamber, but the exit tunnel had caved in. They were trapped. "Base, we need help," Dan called through the radio. "Cave collapse in Section 9, we're stuck." "Rescue team will come," the voice answered. "Stay put. Might take 6 hours to reach you." Ethan checked their air supply. They had enough to wait, but the cave didn't feel stable. More rocks could fall at any time. Suddenly, strange scratching sounds came from the blocked tunnel. Dirt and small rocks moved. Dan pointed his light toward the noise. "What is that?" A clawed limb pushed through the debris. Then another. Ethan's. Heart raced as Nova's head appeared, her eyes glowing in the darkness. "What the hell?" Dan gasped, stepping back. Nova squeezed through the opening she had made. She went straight to Ethan, bumping against his leg. "How did she find us?" Dan asked, eyes wide with fear and wonder. "What is she?" "Her name is Nova," Ethan said, "and I think she's here to help us." Nova turned back to the small hole she had made. She dug faster, making the opening larger. She looked back at Ethan and made a chirping sound. "She wants us to follow," Ethan realized. Nova led them through the opening and down a different tunnel than the one that collapsed. Somehow, she knew the way out. Within an hour, they emerged from the cave into the fading daylight. Base security. Teams arrived soon after, surprised to find them already out. Ethan kept Nova hidden in the nearby forest until he could sneak her back to his quarters that night. "You saved my life," Ethan told her, stroking her scaled head. "You knew I was in danger and found me." Nova's skin glowed with gentle blue patterns. She was more than just a specimen now. She was his friend, his protector. Meanwhile, Princess Lyra's warship entered the Novarus system. Her scouts confirmed the signal came from the Earth research base on the planet's northern continent. Lyra stood in her private chamber, looking at ancient texts displayed on a glowing screen. The texts showed drawings of creatures like Nova, called Guardians. Created long ago by Vraxian scientists, these beings were designed to bond with royal children from birth. They served as both protectors and weapons. "The Guardian should have bonded with me," Lyra told her chief advisor Vex. "Our minds should have joined when the egg hatched." "It's unprecedented for an outsider to claim a guardian," Vex replied. "The creature must be confused, imprinted on this human instead." "Can the bond be broken?" Lyra asked. Vex hesitated. "It may be possible, Your Highness, but it could harm the guardian." Lyra paced the chamber, her tall form casting long shadows. Without her guardian, her claim to the Vraxian throne weakened daily. Rival royal houses were already challenging her right to rule. "We cannot simply destroy the research base," Vex cautioned. "It would bring the full force of Earth's military. We are not ready for open war." "I don't seek war," Lyra replied, "but I will not leave without what is mine." She touched the mark on her chest, feeling the empty connection that should have been filled with her guardian's presence. "The guardian lives and has formed a bond with someone else," she said quietly. "I can sense that much. But bonds can be useful in many ways." Back on Navarus, Nova continued to grow. 5 months after hatching, she reached the size of a large dog. Her reflexes became lightning fast. Her ability to change her skin color made her nearly invisible when she wanted to hide. Ethan knew he couldn't keep her secret much longer. Dan had agreed to stay quiet about what he saw in the cave, but questions were being asked about how they escaped. "We need to find a safe way to introduce you to the world," Ethan told Nova as she lay curled on his floor. "You're too important to keep hidden." Nova raised her head suddenly, alert. Her scales shifted to a warning red pattern. She looked toward the ceiling, then back at Ethan. "What is it, girl?" he asked. Above the planet, Princess Lyra gave the order. "Prepare for descent. I will lead the extraction team myself." Her warship broke orbit and headed toward the research base, cloaking shields active. The time had come for Lyra to reclaim what was hers. Alarms blared through the research base. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Ethan woke from a deep sleep, confused and startled. Nova stood by his bed, her scales flashing warning patterns of red and orange. She made urgent clicking sounds. "Emergency. Alert. Unknown aircraft detected. This is not a drill. All personnel report to secure locations," announced the base's AI system. Ethan jumped out of bed and quickly put on his uniform. Through his small window, he saw strange lights in the night sky. Something large hovered over the base. It didn't look like any Earth ship he had ever seen. "What's happening?" he whispered to himself. Nova paced the room, agitated. She seemed to know something Ethan didn't. Her behavior reminded him of how she acted before the cave collapse, alert, protective, sensing danger. The base commander's voice came through the speakers. Attention all staff. We have detected an unauthorized vessel in our airspace. Security. Teams are responding. All research personnel must evacuate to the underground shelters immediately. Ethan grabbed his emergency pack. Then he looked at Nova, now the size of a large panther. He couldn't leave her behind, but taking her to the crowded shelter would expose her secret. I can't hide you anymore, he told her. But I won't abandon you either. Nova bumped her head against his hand, as if understanding his dilemma. Ethan made a quick decision. Come on, girl, we'll find another way out. Instead of heading to the main shelter, Ethan led Nova toward the back exit of the research wing. The corridors were chaotic with people running in all directions. Ethan kept Nova close, using service tunnels when possible to avoid being seen. They had almost reached the exit when the building shook violently. The lights went out. Then emergency power came on with dim blue lighting. Through a window, Ethan saw something impossible. A section of the main building's roof had been cut open with surgical precision. They're already inside, he realized, with dread. Nova growled, a sound Ethan had never heard her make before. Her scales shifted to a deep purple color with bright edges. She looked ready for a fight. Let's keep moving, Ethan urged, heading toward the central atrium. It was the furthest from the breach and might offer a path to the vehicle bay. When they reached the atrium, Ethan stopped in shock. The massive space was already occupied. 5 tall figures stood in the center, wearing strange armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal around their bodies. Their skin ranged from silver to blue with glowing markings similar to Nova's patterns. Aliens. Real, intelligent aliens. The first ever encountered by humans. At the center stood a figure taller than the rest. Even from a distance, Ethan could tell this one was different. More regal, more commanding. The alien removed its helmet, revealing a face that was both beautiful and terrifying. Female-looking with silver skin, large eyes, and no hair. Patterns of light moved beneath her skin like living tattoos. Nova froze beside Ethan. Then, to his surprise, she stepped forward into the open. The alien woman turned immediately as if sensing Nova's presence. There you are, she said, her voice musical and clear, speaking perfect English. My Cathari. Nova, or Cathari as the alien called her, moved forward slowly. She seemed torn, looking back at Ethan, then at the alien woman. Step away from the guardian human, the alien commanded, noticing Ethan for the first time. Ethan stepped into the atrium, his heart pounding. Her name is Nova. She's been with me for months. Who are you, and why are you here? The alien woman's eyes narrowed. I am Princess Lyra Kazara of the Vraxian Empire, and that creature belongs to me. Nova, Cathari, stood between them now, her head moving from Ethan to Lyra and back again. She made soft, confused sounds. She doesn't seem to think so, Ethan said, trying to sound braver than he felt. The princess moved with startling speed, stopping just feet from Ethan. She was at least a foot taller than him, her presence intimidating. The guardian was created for me, Lyra explained coldly. Grown from genetic material spanning generations of my royal line. Her egg was stolen by raiders who crashed on this planet. You found it by chance, nothing more. Ethan glanced at Nova, who watched them both intently. Created? You're saying she's not a natural species? The Guardians are engineered beings, Lyra said. Designed to bond with and protect Vraxian royalty. She was meant to hatch in my presence to form a psychic link with me from birth. The princess touched a glowing mark on her chest. Instead, she formed an incorrect bond with you. Suddenly, the base shook again. Sounds of weapons fire echoed from distant corridors. Your people are resisting my guards, Lyra noted calmly. Unwise but predictable, Nova growled, moving closer to Ethan protectively. Her scales flashed patterns Ethan had never seen before. Complex swirls of light that seemed almost like language. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Impossible, she whispered. The Guardian has evolved beyond initial parameters. More of the bases, security forces arrived, taking positions around the atrium with weapons drawn. The alien guards moved to protect their princess. raising strange weapons of their own. "Hold your fire," shouted Commander Rivera as she entered the space. "Everyone stay calm." The standoff grew tense. Humans and aliens ready to attack, with Ethan, Nova, and Princess Lyra in the center. "She was never yours to keep," Lyra told Ethan, her voice softer but no less determined. "The bond she has formed with you is an aberration, but one easily corrected." Lyra raised her hand toward Nova. The princess's skin began to glow with intricate patterns, similar to Nova's but more complex. Nova stared, transfixed. "Stop!" Ethan moved forward, putting himself between them. "You can't just take her." Nova made a distressed sound, clearly torn between the pull she felt toward Lyra and her loyalty to Ethan. The princess looked at Ethan with new interest. "You care for her, more than as a specimen or pet." "She's my friend," Ethan said simply. "She saved my life." Before Lyra could respond, one of her guards spoke urgently in an alien language. She listened, then replied with sharp commands. "Your planet's defense forces have detected our ship," she told Commander Rivera. "More of your military approaches. This complicates matters." "Then leave," Rivera suggested firmly, "before this becomes an interplanetary incident. Not without what belongs to me." Lyra's gaze fixed on Nova again. Nova looked at Ethan, her intelligent eyes seeming to ask for guidance. Then she looked at Lyra, drawn by something Ethan couldn't understand. "I won't let you take her against her will," Ethan insisted. Lyra studied him for a long moment. "Perhaps there is another way," she said finally, "one that might benefit us both." Before she could explain, chaos erupted. A nervous human guard fired his weapon. The shot was deflected by an alien's armor, but it triggered an immediate response. Energy weapons fired. People shouted. In the confusion, Lyra's guards moved with blinding speed, surrounding their princess and Nova. Ethan tried to reach Nova, but strong arms grabbed him. He found himself being dragged toward the alien's position. The last thing he saw before a flash of light enveloped them was Nova reaching toward him with one of her limbs, as if trying to ensure he wasn't left behind. When his vision cleared, Ethan was no longer in the research base. He stood in a metal chamber with flowing designs on the walls. Nova pressed against his leg, her scales shifting nervously. Princess Lyra and her guards stood nearby. "Welcome aboard my ship, Ethan Miller," Lyra said. "We have much to discuss about the future of Cathari and your planet." Ethan stood in the strange metal chamber, trying to steady his breathing. The walls pulsed with faint light, almost as if the ship itself was alive. Nova stayed close to him, her scales shifting between defensive red and uncertain blue patterns. "Princess," Lyra spoke to her guards in their language, sending them away with quick commands. Soon only Lyra, Ethan, and Nova remained in the room. "Where are we exactly?" Ethan asked, looking around. "My personal warship," Lyra replied. "Currently in orbit around your planet." She moved to a control panel that appeared as she approached. "Your people are in quite an uproar. They've never encountered advanced alien life before, have they?" "No," Ethan admitted. "This is humanity's first contact with intelligent aliens, and you chose to make it by attacking our research base." Lyra turned to face him. "I did not come to attack. I came to retrieve what was stolen from me." Nova made a soft rumbling sound, moving between them again. Her scales now showed complex patterns that Ethan had never seen before. "Fascinating," Lyra said, watching Nova closely. "She's trying to communicate with both of us simultaneously." Lyra touched another panel. A door opened in the curved wall, revealing a larger chamber. "Come, we should continue this discussion, where Cathari can be properly examined." Ethan hesitated, but Nova moved toward the door, looking back as if encouraging him to follow. He had little choice but to comply. The new room was clearly a laboratory of some kind. Strange equipment lined the walls. In the center stood a raised platform with glowing edges. "Place Cathari on the scanner," Lyra instructed. "Her name is Nova," Ethan said firmly. "And I'm not doing anything until you explain what's happening." Lyra's expression hardened. Very well. The short version. The Guardian species was created by Vraxian scientists thousands of years ago. They are genetically engineered to bond with and protect the royal bloodline. Each heir to the throne receives one guardian that imprints at birth, forming a lifelong psychic bond. She touched the glowing mark on her chest. My guardian was stolen before it could hatch. Without it, my claim to rule grows weaker each day. Rival houses are already moving against me. And Nova is your guardian? Ethan asked, looking at his companion. Yes, she should have bonded with me. Lyra's voice held a trace of bitterness. Instead, she bonded with you, a random human who found her egg. Nova seemed to understand. She made a soft trilling sound and approached the platform cautiously. After a moment's hesitation, she climbed onto it. She wants to know the truth as, well, Lyra observed. The platform lit up. Beams of light scanned Nova from all angles. Holographic displays appeared, showing detailed images of her internal structure. Remarkable, Lyra whispered. She has developed far beyond normal parameters. Ethan moved closer to see the displays. Though he couldn't read the alien text, the images showed Nova's complex brain, her unique muscular system, and something else. A network of glowing energy throughout her body. What is that? He asked, pointing to the energy pattern. The bond network, Lyra explained. Normally it would be connected solely to me through matching genetic markers. She looked at Ethan with new interest. But she has formed a true bond. With you instead. Unprecedented. Nova stepped off the platform and moved to a wall covered in strange technology. As she approached, the technology began to glow more brightly. Nova's body responded, absorbing energy from the systems. Before Ethan's eyes, she grew larger. Her muscles became more defined, her movements more fluid and powerful. What's happening to her? Ethan asked, alarmed. She's interfacing with Vraxian technology, Lyra said. Something she was designed to do. The Guardian species can absorb and channel energy from our systems, enhancing their abilities. Nova now stood as tall as Ethan's chest. Her intelligence seemed to expand with her size. She looked at Ethan, then at Lyra, with even deeper understanding in her eyes. Cathari, Nova, is the last of the royal guardians, Lyra continued. The breeding program ended centuries ago. Without her, I cannot take the throne and my world faces civil war. She walked to a large window. Outside, Ethan could see the curve of Earth below, beautiful and blue. Your planet has been observed for some time, Lyra said. We know your civilization is young, fragile. You've barely left your own moon. A sick feeling grew in Ethan's stomach. Is that a threat? An observation? Lyra touched another panel. A holographic display showed multiple large ships appearing at the edge of the solar system. The Vraxian royal fleet awaits my command. They expect me to return with my guardian. So you're saying if you don't get Nova, your fleet will attack Earth? Ethan asked, anger rising in his voice. I'm saying the situation is complex. Lyra's expression softened slightly. I don't desire war with your people, but I need Cathari to secure my throne and prevent war on my world. Nova watched them both, her scales shifting in troubled patterns. She moved to Ethan's side, pressing against his leg, then walked to Lyra and studied her intently. She recognizes something in you, Ethan noted. Genetic familiarity, Lyra explained. She was created from my bloodline. Lyra knelt to Nova's level, extending a hand. Nova sniffed it cautiously. I offer you a choice, Ethan Miller, Lyra said, rising to her feet. Help me reclaim Cathari's loyalty, and I will spare your planet from conflict. I will even establish peaceful contact with your leaders. Your planet or your pet, she continued, her silver eyes unblinking. The choice should be simple. Ethan looked at Nova, remembering everything they had shared. The trust they had built, the bond that had formed naturally, not through genetic engineering or royal decree. She's not a pet, Ethan said quietly. And I don't think her loyalty is something that can be transferred like property. He studied Nova more carefully. Seeing how she had changed since coming aboard the alien ship, she seemed more aware, more complete somehow. I think Nova has evolved beyond whatever programming you built into her species, Ethan suggested. Look at how she's responding to your technology. She's growing, changing, becoming more than what she was designed to be. Lyra frowned. That should not be possible. Maybe not. But it's happening. Ethan approached Nova, kneeling beside her. She's developing a consciousness that's neither human nor Vraxian. Nova's scales lit up with intricate patterns, almost like language. She touched Ethan's hand with one limb, then reached toward Lyra with another. An idea formed in Ethan's mind. Dangerous, perhaps impossible, but worth trying. What if there's another solution? He asked. One where Nova doesn't have to choose between us? Lyra looked skeptical. What do you mean? You said Guardians form a psychic bond with their Vraxian partners, Ethan recalled. What if Nova could bond with both of us? A three-way connection linking human, Vraxian, and Guardian? Impossible, Lyra said immediately. The bonding process is specific to Vraxian biology and… Nova interrupted with a sharp, clear sound. She stood taller, her scales glowing brightly. She touched Ethan's head with one limb and reached toward Lyra with another. I think she disagrees, Ethan said. I think she's trying to tell us she can do it. Lyra stared at Nova, then at Ethan. No Guardian has ever attempted a dual bond. The strain could destroy her mind. Or it could create something new, Ethan suggested. A bridge between our species. The ship trembled slightly. A guard entered, speaking urgently to Lyra in their language. Earth's military has launched interceptors, Lyra translated for Ethan. And my royal advisors have arrived in the system. They expect a resolution. She looked at Nova, who continued to reach toward both of them. The traditional bonding ritual requires specialized equipment on our homeworld. But Nova isn't traditional, Ethan pointed out. And she seems to think she can do this here now. Lyra hesitated, studying Nova intently. If this fails, then you can do what you planned originally, Ethan said. But if it works, both our worlds benefit. After a long moment, Lyra nodded. Very well. We will attempt this unprecedented bonding. She touched her control panel again. Prepare the bridge for a royal bonding ritual, she commanded, and inform the fleet to maintain position. Lyra looked at Ethan, her expression solemn. If this succeeds, human, you will be connected to me and to Cathari in ways you cannot imagine. Are you prepared for that? Ethan looked at Nova, who waited expectantly. He thought of Earth below, of the research base, of everything he knew. Then he thought of the bond he already shared with Nova, the trust, the connection that had formed, naturally between them. Yes, he said simply. I'm ready. The bridge of the Vraxian flagship was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. The vast circular space curved overhead in a dome of transparent material, showing the stars and Earth below. The floor contained intricate patterns that glowed with shifting light. Around the edges stood Vraxian nobles in elaborate dress, their skin colors ranging from silver to deep blue, all watching with obvious disapproval. My royal court, Lyra explained quietly. They came to witness my ascension with the Guardian. They did not expect this. Nova walked between Ethan and Lyra, her scales glowing with bright, complex patterns. She had grown even larger in the past hour, now standing as tall as Ethan's shoulders. Her 6 limbs moved with graceful precision, and her eyes showed deep intelligence. At the center of the bridge, a raised platform waited. 3 points formed a triangle, each marked with different symbols. The bonding ritual is ancient, Lyra said as they approached. Traditionally performed between one royal and one guardian. What we attempt has never been done. An older Vraxian, with deep blue skin and elaborate markings, stepped forward. Princess, this is unprecedented. A human cannot participate in the sacred bond. It violates all tradition. Vex, you know my situation, Lyra replied firmly. Without the Guardian, my claim fails. The Guardian has bonded with this human. We must adapt. Vex looked at Ethan with clear distrust. And if this fails? If the human mind breaks under the strain? Then I alone will bear responsibility, Lyra stated. Nova made a sharp sound, drawing everyone's attention. She moved to the platform and stood at one point of the triangle, waiting expectantly. She seems ready, Ethan observed. She has accessed our ship's knowledge, Lyra explained. Her mind continues to expand beyond what should be possible. Lyra took her position at another point of the triangle. She looked at Ethan and gestured to the third point. Once we begin, there is no stopping until completion. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped onto the platform. The material felt warm, under his feet. The court members watched in silence, some whispering to each other. What do I need to do? Ethan asked. Open your mind, Lyra said. The technology will form the initial connection. Cathari will guide us through the rest. Lyra raised her hands. The platform beneath them began to glow brighter. Energy patterns flowed from the edges of the room toward the center, forming a glowing web above them. Nova's body lit up with matching patterns. She stretched out her limbs, touching both Ethan and Lyra. The moment of contact sent a jolt through Ethan's body. The room around them seemed to fade. Ethan felt a strange pressure in his mind, like something pressing against a door, waiting to be let in. Don't fight it. Lyra's voice seemed to come from both outside and inside his head. Let the connection form. Ethan closed his eyes and tried to relax his mind. The pressure increased, then suddenly gave way. A flood of sensations and images washed over him. He saw a young Vraxian girl with silver skin, standing alone in ornate chambers, weighed down by expectations and duty. He felt her loneliness, her determination, her fear of failure. He recognized Lyra experiencing fragments of her lifetime of rigid control and responsibility. Then other images came. Stars seen from impossible angles, knowledge of distant worlds, a sense of purpose spanning millennia. These came from Nova Cathari, glimpses of genetic memory and instinctive knowledge built into her very being. I can see, Ethan whispered, overwhelmed. And we see you. Lyra's voice answered in his mind. Ethan felt them exploring his memories, his childhood on Earth, his passion for science, his wonder at discovering Nova's egg, the care he had shown her, the friendship that had formed. The three minds circled each other, separate yet increasingly connected. Ethan felt Nova at the center, forming bridges between human and Vraxian consciousness that should have been incompatible. Outside, the Vraxian court watched as energy flowed between the three figures. Nova's body glowed so brightly it was difficult to look at directly. The ship's systems pulsed in harmony with the ritual. It's working, Vex whispered in surprise. The Guardian is forming a dual bond. Inside the mental space, Ethan felt the connection deepening. He understood now why the Guardian was so important to Vraxian royalty. The bond provided more than protection. It offered balance, perspective, wisdom beyond a single mind's capacity. He felt Lyra's surprise as she experienced human emotions through his memories, the freedom of his choices, the connections he formed, without royal burden, the simple joy he found in discovery. And through Nova Cathari, they both glimpsed something greater, a consciousness spanning galaxies, ancient knowledge encoded in her very cells. The Guardian species had been designed as more than mere protectors. They were living bridges, meant to connect and harmonize. The intensity grew almost unbearable. Ethan felt like his mind might shatter under the pressure. Then, just as he thought, he couldn't endure more. Everything shifted. The three separate minds found balance, each distinct yet connected, supporting each other in perfect harmony. The light faded gradually. Ethan opened his eyes, gasping for breath. He still stood on the platform, but everything looked different. He could sense the ship around him in new ways. He could feel Lyra's presence without looking at her. And Nova, now standing taller than either of them, radiated satisfaction. It is done, Lyra said softly, her voice holding new warmth. The bond is formed. The court members stared in shock. Some knelt immediately, recognizing the completion of a valid bonding ritual. Others whispered urgently to each other. Ethan looked at Nova, who met his gaze with deep understanding. He could feel her joy at bridging the gap between two very different beings. "How do you feel?" he asked her, though he already sensed her answer through their strengthened bond. Nova's scales shifted in beautiful patterns. Through the new connection, Ethan understood her response. Complete, whole, purposeful. Lyra stepped down from the platform and faced her court. "The bonding is successful. Cathari has chosen both of us." Vex approached cautiously. "This is unprecedented. Your Highness, no guardian has ever shared a bond." "Many things about this guardian are unprecedented," Lyra replied. She looked at Ethan with new respect. "She has evolved beyond our understanding, as has her human caretaker." Through their connection, Ethan felt Lyra's thoughts. She was calculating political implications, considering how to present this development to her people. But beneath that ran a current of wonder and relief. The empty space in her mind was filled at last. "What happens now?" Ethan asked. "Now," Lyra said, "we negotiate. Your world has discovered it is not alone in the universe. My claim to the throne is secured, but with complications." She glanced at Ethan. "You are now connected to Vraxian royalty in a way no outsider has ever been." The ship's communication system chimed. "Earth governments are demanding contact," a guard reported, "and requesting the return of their scientist." Lyra smiled slightly. "Inform them we are sending a diplomatic representative." She turned to Ethan. "Through our shared bond with Cathari, you understand us better than any human could, and I understand your people through your experiences." Nova moved to stand between them, one limb touching each of them lightly. Ethan felt her nudging their thoughts, encouraging cooperation. "My people will not understand this. Submission to new possibilities," Lyra admitted, the word carefully chosen, as she watched Cathari move comfortably between them. "But they will accept it, as I have." A delegation of Vraxian officials prepared a smaller ship for the journey back to Earth. Nova would accompany them, serving as living proof of the bond between human and Vraxian. As Earth representatives arrived to begin negotiations with the suddenly diplomatic Vraxian fleet, Ethan realized how profoundly his life had changed. His impulsive decision to raise a tiny creature had reshaped the destiny of two species. Nova stood tall and proud between the human and Vraxian delegations as they met for the first time. No longer just a predator or a symbol of royal power, she had become something far greater, a bridge between worlds. Through their shared bond, Ethan felt Nova's satisfaction. She had fulfilled her purpose, though not in the way her creators had intended. She had evolved beyond her programming to create something new, a connection that transcended species. Lyra approached Ethan before the formal negotiations began. Through their bond, he felt her genuine respect, tinged with lingering uncertainty. "This was not how I expected my ascension to happen," she admitted quietly. "Life rarely follows our expectations," Ethan replied, "but sometimes it leads to something better than we could have planned." Nova made a soft sound of agreement, her scales shifting in patterns that both human and Vraxian could now understand. A language of light that spoke of future possibilities, of growth, of worlds coming together in ways neither had imagined. The leaders of both worlds began their historic first conversation. Ethan felt Nova's quiet certainty through their bond. What had begun with him raising a tiny creature into a predator had transformed into something far more significant. A new beginning for two civilizations that might otherwise have met in conflict. The princess had indeed submitted, not to defeat, but to a new vision of what might be possible when ancient traditions adapted to unexpected change. And in that submission, both worlds had gained far more than either could have achieved alone.